Speaking of going all in, now we're going to head over to Denver, where the Broncos also made some splash moves. We'll start right there. They brought in quarterback Russell Wilson. In case you didn't see, he's already all Broncoed up. Let's ride. Brought in tackle Billy Turner from the Packers, who I think is a very solid tackle, can play guard. He can play multiple spots on the O-line. Brought in defensive lineman DJ Jones, who I think has been pretty solid in San Francisco. Brought in your guy, edge rusher Randy Gregory. Brought in cornerback Quan Williams. And then in the draft, grabbed a linebacker slash edge guy, Nick Bonito, who I actually kind of liked, so he could already contribute. And then also tight end Greg Dulcich in the third round. And maybe that's the planning because they lost Noah Fant via the trade that was the Russell Wilson trade. And also they lost Drew Lock. Quarterback Teddy Bridgewater also left via free agency. And saying about cornerbacks Kyle Fuller and Bryce Callahan. So yeah, John, what are your expectations for the Denver Broncos? And are you hopping on the train with Russell Wilson?
I really like the offseason the Broncos had, but I am not quite ready to say that the Denver Broncos are going to dominate this division and they're going to come out and they're just going to kill it. It's really tough for me to decide who I think is going to be the team that finishes last in this division. The Broncos are definitely a contender there. I think the Chargers and the Chiefs are the two that I'm like, I don't think they will, barring injury. And so it's between the Raiders and the Broncos. And once again, the last place team in this division could be a 9 or 10 win team. And that would be crazy. It's even technically possible based on the current playoff system for all four of these teams to make the playoffs. It'd be very hard. There'd have to be a lot of splitting of series when it comes to these divisional games, but it is absolutely possible that it could happen. I love the addition of Russell Wilson. Go out, take your swing. This is a team that had one of the best rosters without having one of the best quarterbacks. And so, there was always those teams that it's like the Browns or the Broncos last year. Loaded rosters. They just need an A1 quarterback, and all of a sudden they could be a really elite team. The Broncos are one of those teams. And so you have Russell Wilson now, and I think that that's going to bode really big for Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton this season. Two guys that have had really solid starts to their careers, but they were doing it with Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock, just not the best quarterback options. And all of a sudden you get a guy like Russell Wilson who has plenty of experience with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jermaine Kearse, all these guys from the past, and turning them into far better receivers. I think that he can do that with Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. I love Javonte Williams. You do too. We're both very high on him. And so him and although I don't love it for fantasy, they brought back Melvin Gordon. I think for real life football, that's a great move. You keep them both fresh. Melvin Gordon's a very good running back still. And so that allows Javonte to stay fresh. I just hope that maybe this year the split goes like 60-40 Javonte's way, just for me selfishly in fantasy. And I'm sure you would like that too, since you have him in our dynasty league. But overall, I like a lot of what they have on offense. My main concerns for them are going to be on defense. Now, I do like the addition of Randy Gregory because now you have him and Bradley Chubb. And so rushing the passer, I'm a big fan of the two edge guys that they have over there. My biggest concerns are, number one, at corner. I love Patrick Surtain. Don't get me wrong. I really wanted the Cowboys to draft him, so don't take that as any slight towards him. But they lose Bryce Callahan, and that was a really key contributor to this Broncos defense for quite some time. A lot of people even considered him the best nickel corner in the entire NFL. So you lose him, and I'm just not entirely sure who the nickel corner is going to be. It might be Kwan Williams. Maybe it'll be Ronald Darby, a couple guys that are, have experience potentially playing in there. But I think whoever it is, it's going to be a downgrade from Bryce Callahan. It's not the end of the world. But overall, I just think they lost a little of their high-end depth that they had at corner. And then also, I'm still just not sold on their linebackers. It's been this way for quite some time. They have right now, as their current depth chart looks like, they're going to have Jonas Griffith, who I've never heard of, and Josie Jewell. So if you're a Broncos fan, please comment down below your thoughts on them, what you're hearing in camp, because I just don't know much about the linebackers they do have. I'm familiar with Alex Singleton, and he was actually a pretty decent contributor for the Philadelphia Eagles, but it looks like right now on the depth chart, he'd be the number 3 linebacker of choice. So, yeah, I'm just a little concerned with some of the guys they have on defense, but I think they have a lot of young pieces that can step up, and they still have 2 of the best safeties in the NFL Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson. They drafted Caden Stearns out of Texas. He was a really highly ranked prospect in college for quite some time, outside of like the last 2 years of his career there, where he kind of dropped a little bit. But I've heard really good things about him in camp so far. So I think that this is a team that, once again, so like I said with the Raiders, could be a Super Bowl contender if they have a lot of internal development and Russell Wilson integrates correctly. But they also could be a team that potentially misses the playoffs just because of how stacked this division is. So I don't know where to put them. I'm going to say that just as of right now, I'd put them a little closer to the third or fourth spot in the division as opposed to competing for it with the Chargers and the Chiefs.
Yeah, this division is gonna be tough to pick or to sort out when we do our season predictions. But yeah, I'm right with you. I think they're just in that next tier down under the Chiefs and Chargers, probably in there with grouping with the Raiders. Obviously on offense, like you mentioned, I think we've all felt that this has been a talented offense. Like you said, you just got to fill the quarterback spot, and it's a little unfortunate that they've already lost Tim Patrick. But they have KJ Hamler in the wings, and they still have Jerry Jeudy, obviously, and Cortland Sutton. And we'll see if Albert O, their tight end, you can try his last name. He's already shown he's been serviceable the past few years whenever Noah Fant's been out. So hopefully he can step up and play that role. If not, that's probably why they grabbed Greg Dulcich in the third round. So yeah, and you mentioned the running backs. I think they'll be fine, and their offensive line I think should be still solid as well, pretty good. And that's the interesting thing is because Russell Wilson, I would say last year didn't have his greatest year, but once again, it's hard to give him a fair grade because as we all know, Seattle's offensive line has always been poor, and B never had really a creative offense either. And I'm very interested to see what him and Nathaniel Hackett do. I feel like it's gonna be a lot more creative, a lot more plays tying with each other with the play action, and I expect Russell to have a pretty good year, numbers wise. And then you mentioned the big question is the defense. Can Randy Gregory keep up this level of play that he did last season? Some could say it's a contract year. We've seen it happen before where guys ball out their contract year, don't really do so after they get their contract. So we'll see if he can keep up that level of play. And then also, it may not have been one of the worst run defense like the Chargers, but they also had a pretty poor run defense at times too last year. So hopefully they can iron that up. And yeah, you mentioned secondary is a little scary considering their division. We already just mentioned all the receivers that the Chargers have, and that the Raiders now have, and then the Chiefs are still pretty good. And as good as Patrick Stan is, he's one man, and those safeties, they're going to be playing more back. So we'll see if one of these other guys that John mentioned can step up and be serviceable. Ronald Darby's bounced around the league. He's a high draft pick. He's had good moments, so maybe he can just be that veteran presence for them. But yeah, this is going to be a tough division to rank. But like you said, I fully expect this team to be in the playoff conversation. Obviously, a bunch of new pieces, new faces, new ownership as well. So we'll see if that affects them in a positive or negative way throughout the season.